And now, here she is, Jenny Jones.
My next guest says that unmarried couples with kids should put the needs of their children ahead of their own fear of commitment, or seriously consider not having children at all. She counsels adult children who are products of these arrangements and says the damage runs deep. Meet psychotherapist Dr. Sherry Lehman. What have you found in adult children that have lived with parents who never married?
There's a lot of confusion. There's a lot of anger. I think it runs very deep, Jenny, and I see them daily, and they always come to me and say, why didn't they think of me? Because all children want to grow up in an intact, traditional family. And I don't care where you live, whether you live in Berkeley, whether you live in LA, whether you live in Boston, that need is still there to grow up in that traditional father, mother, children with the same last name.
The adults now are products of the 60s probably, when everybody was living together and they never made the choice to get married, and now we have the adults, right? Of those.
Right, and I was listening to them and I was thinking, I feel sad. I feel sad that you two had the experience in your life of coming into touch with divorce, and then that touched your life, so you're afraid to get married. And it sounds like you really care about each other. And so I'm thinking, well, what is it? You know, you're in an in-between land. You're not married, you're not single. And yet, to me, having a child is the biggest commitment in the world. And I wonder why, you know, how you really deal with bringing a child into this atmosphere.
I think we deal with it the same way if we were even married. I don't feel that we're bringing up our child any different. As Denise said, we're teaching responsibility. We're bringing up the way any other family would bring up a child.
But if you were a child, if you can imagine how you might feel if you're 5 or 6 years old and you're living with people that aren't married. Wouldn't you feel a little insecure that the family could be gone tomorrow? They could go away?
If we were married, it could end just as easily.
Well, you know what's interesting? They have done studies, and I used to think couples that lived together had just as high a divorce rate as couples that did not. Now they're finding that couples that cohabitate before marriage have a 33% higher divorce rate once married than couples that did not. And they're seeing that some of the reason couples live together is they do come from broken homes. They do have bad experiences. They do have a fear of commitment beyond what they're doing.
He's a wonderful person to the children. I see it, the insecurity toward the children.
I was just going to ask you, do you think they feel a little insecure that even though he's great with them, that he could leave? Isn't that a problem?
Well,
Sherry?
I think it is. Even though we know that 1 out of every 2 couples ends up in divorce, I think it does give the children a clearer definition. They have a little more sense of security that their parents are married. And I'm thinking mainly of the children, even though couples that live together, when they break up, it is just as traumatic as if they were married.
Sure.
And I mean, the other thing I hear everybody saying is that marriage is heavy and negative. I know wonderful marriages. I know beautiful marriages. I'm not opposed to living together, but I think you need to think through clearly why, how, and the effects. And you know what else is interesting? And I was telling them beforehand, I know couples who live together 15 years, great sex life, fun. They get married. The next week, they are in my office, fighting, ready to get a divorce, because all of a sudden, he's become his father, she's become her mother, and they're acting the same way.
Yeah. We have to talk about this. Maybe you can give us a little explanation as to why that happens. And also, we're going to have a couple who was pressured into marriage after living together and having a child. We'll be right back.
Sherry Lehman is our guest this morning. She's a sex and family therapist. You were telling me during the break how your mom and dad got together.
It's a great story.
How Mom got my dad.
How'd you hook them, eh?
Well, they had known each other from childhood, and Mother had always loved my father, and he liked to play the field. He was kind of a macho guy, and so they were about 20, and Mother had just had it. He was not making any moves for any commitment. She decided that was it. She was going to move to California. They lived in Cleveland. Dad bought her candy and a suitcase, saw her off. I guess he was going to go to a party that night. He was kind of excited. And the next day, his mother told my mother's mother he got heartsick. He was just moping around.
Aww.
And the next week wrote her a letter and asked her to marry him. And she
That's
came back and they
sweet.
got married, and it's 51 years later.
I'll be doggone.
So there is a message in that, which is if things go on for a long time and there is no movement, there's no change, and you really want it, and your patience has run out, maybe you need to say, that's enough. I really have to make a move away.
All right, here's a caller. Good morning. Go right ahead, please.
Yes, I'm an actor, and I'm getting ready to move, and the girls I go out with, for about 2-3 months, and they get too serious.
Too serious?
And they know what I do, and it's kind of difficult for me sometimes.
Well, it might be that's why they're getting serious, because they know you're going to leave, and it's real easy to kind of open up when you know someone's going. That's a risk that anybody takes, being with someone in your profession, and if you're up front with them and say, I'm going to go, that's about the best you can do.
Really?
I still think even if you move, you can have a relationship long distance if you really care about them. And there's something romantic about an actor anyway.
Yeah. Well, I tell them, you know, that it's hard for me to love, but I tell them I do like them. But I say if I ever do want to say I love you, I will say it. But...
Well, you know what gets me, too, and I have this kind of gripe about we women, speaking as one of us. Sometimes we go after the unattainable. Here's a guy who says, I'm going to move, I'm going to leave, I have a hard time loving, you can't make me say I love you if I don't feel like it, and they go, oh, I love you and I want you. I mean, what bigger signals? and women just go for that.
Okay.
I get aggravated.
Well, good luck.
What happens when you fall for someone who hasn't even reached the age of consent? Robbing the cradle, forbidden May, December love. Next, Geraldo.
When you socialize with your...
I do not socialize.
You don't go out with him?
I do not drink. I do not party. I do not do anything.
So what do you guys do?
We stayed home and did family things with my son.
Like, watch The Simpsons? Cameron, give us a
No, I
hint.
do not like The Simpsons.
Oh,
no.
that's the problem. See, that's probably why you walked away.
I was going to say, the thing that I caution people about is people go through so many changes from 16 to, let's say, 35. I mean, I think how I was at 16 and how I am now, and I'm a different person. So when you date someone 16, I mean, they're just going to go through a tremendous amount of socialization and changes in who they are. And a woman, as she gets to be 35, 40, you get more settled with who you are. I think that's what appeals to younger men, too.
But what about the, I don't know, maybe this is baloney, but I heard one justification for May-December relationships when the woman is older than the guy. In that, Hester shaking her head, you're going to meet Hester. She's one of the writers for Joan Rivers' show, a very funny lady. She's sitting alongside Ron, her husband. That women reach their sexual maturity in their 30s, while men do it in their middle 20s. Therefore, if the guy's 10 years younger, it sort of syncs up.
Well, I think that's true, and I think also your chances of living together for longer are greater, because 85% of women live alone due to widowhood or divorce.
We'll die about the same time.
Such a good thing.
If you don't kill each other before, right?
All this and more today on House Party. And now, here again, Steve Doocy.
Welcome to House Party, folks. Well, the big question today is, can you have romance with a new baby's crib just inches from your pillow? Yes, you can have both with a little help from family therapists. Say hello to Sherry Lehman. Hello, Sherry.
Hello,
welcome to House Party.
Thank you.
My first big question is, does a new baby change everybody's sex life?
I think immediately it has to, although there are the few that say their sex life gets better right after. I haven't found that to be the case.
Well, now, that lady we just talked to, the third lady, said that it actually stoked the flames of passion at her place. It does happen, but if
you expect it, most of us, we're going to be sorely disappointed. As one woman said to me, below cleaning the refrigerator, it was a few notches beneath that in her life for quite a while.
So she wasn't that interested?
No, for many reasons.
Yeah. When is it safe to resume sex after a new baby?
Well, physically, supposedly, it's about 4 to 6 weeks. But some people do have sex earlier. What they have to be sure...
Earlier than a month after the baby?
Earlier. They have to be sure, though, that the discharge has stopped, right, and that everything is healed as it should. And I do think most people do need to wait till that checkup, because the cervix is open for a while, and that can lead to infection. So you have to be very careful about that.
So a month after, maybe physically, but mentally...
Mentally, it could be 6 months to a year. Now, unfortunately, the male, except for being tired, has not gone through the physical trauma, and the emotional trauma is a little different. So he may be ready the next day, and that could be the furthest thing from his wife's mind.
I think you're probably right. Now, we've got somebody here on staff at House Party who also has 2 children, just as I do, just as you do, in fact.
That's
and
right.
she's going to, she's got some questions for you as well. Say hello to dear Darlene, folks. She's right over here. Come here, Darlene. She knew we were talking about this, and she had some questions for you. Hi, Darlene.
Hi, Margaret.
What would you like to ask Sherry about this? You've got 2 kids.
I certainly do. Now, I know that, you know, our self-image changes after we have a baby. We don't feel like we look good, the same way we did when we were pregnant. Now, how much of that has to do with you know, our disinterest in sex?
Oh, I think quite a bit. One of my clients said to me, my body looks like a relief map of the Andes Mountains, and I do not think anyone would want to be near it. I think when we feel thin, in shape, and energetic, we feel more sexual. And afterward, particularly if we're nursing and giving milk, we feel more like an animal, a cow. You know, when is the next feeding time? And that just isn't very sexy to many of us.
But how do you get over that? I mean, you have to continue a relationship with your mate. And, I mean, there's a period of time it takes before your body gets back into shape. So, I mean, how do you get over those feelings at that moment?
Well, one of the things I say is that to wear nice things, even though you do not feel beautiful, because a lot of women have to wear maternity clothes for quite a while after the baby is born. You can still get good-looking underwear and negligees and things that are a little bigger. Remember that he may not see you nearly as badly as you see you. And I say a lot of cuddle time, a lot of time of just being close is desperately needed. You have 2 people there who need to keep their relationship. I think the big problem that happens to many couples, she gets involved with the baby, and he's kind of on the outside, and he feels left out even though he knows he probably shouldn't. And they keep drifting further apart.
Well, isn't that natural, though, for the dad to kind of feel a little jealous because the mom is paying all the attention to that little bundle of joy, and he's the last thing on her mind?
Well, I think you're right. I think they need to talk about it. I call it pillow talk if you're ever on the pillow at the same time. And I think what happens to most of us, I don't know if you remember this, I'm sure you do, Steve. All I wanted to do was get 5 hours of straight sleep. I mean, sex, forget it. Sleep.